Thank you very much for having me here today. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the healthcare supply chain. It's a little bit unique and really looking for some help and innovation in this area. We would love to get the things like blockchain, but as I'll describe, there's some constraints that we need to deal with in order to take advantage of some of these technologies. I've been asked a couple times in the conference today as to what exactly is supply chain. And really, supply chain sits in the middle between the patients and the providers. Our job is to make sure that we get the right products at the right time, the right price, to the right place. Sounds pretty simple, but it's actually more complicated than it needs to be. So because I work at Mayo Clinic, I'm often asked what's wrong with healthcare. There is no simple answer to that question other than it costs too much. And I think you all would agree with that. We have 328 million people in the United States today. And as a nation, we spend $3.5 trillion in healthcare. That's more than $10,000 per person per year. That's a lot of money. And so the next question I get asked is, where does all that money go? We are a service industry. Labor is our #1 cost. But not far behind is a very active and also a very expensive supply chain. And so I think we have a big opportunity here to make the supply chain a lot more effective and a lot more efficient within healthcare. On the surface, our supply chain looks a lot like any other industry. As a matter of fact, we've gone to great extent to take best practices from other industries such as retail and manufacturing. As a matter of fact, I come from a retail background, and my specific job was to put the retail model into healthcare, which I did. The problem with this is that as efficient as we get with our systems and our best practices, the market itself is quite different than what we would find in a retail or manufacturer. Let me give you an example. When I look at our spend at Mayo Clinic, just 20 suppliers make up more than half of our spend. Now, if you compare that to the top 10 providers in healthcare, we make up about 1% to 2% of that same market. So there's a big disparity and imbalance in that marketplace, and quite frankly, an economist would call that a very inefficient marketplace. Interesting enough, if you went and you looked at some of our suppliers' balance sheets or P&Ls, you would find a huge SG&A cost. That's the selling and general administration cost. The reason they have a big cost, most of them you'll see about 30 to 40% of their cost has nothing to do with research and development, has nothing to do with manufacturing products. It has to servicing that fragmented marketplace. And so along we came and we put these systems in place in mimicking other industries. And what we're finding is that those systems just don't really meet that particular marketplace. So the good news is, as consumers, we experience an environment every day that does deal very well with inefficient marketplaces and fragmented marketplaces. As a matter of fact, that's what they excel at. And so our thought is, how can we apply the same paradigm that a digital company would have to our healthcare supply chain? One of the interesting things that when we look at digital companies, their business model is significantly different. It's not just the technology. It's not just that they center their entire platform on data and artificial intelligence. That capability also gives them a different model. Let me compare and contrast how a pipe and a platform works. A pipe is how our supply chain works. It's a traditional business model. Large masses of value are created upstream, and then it's very sequentially consumed downstream. Platforms, if you think about that, they work really, really well in large batches. Think of Walmart, for example, doing business with Procter & Gamble. It's an extremely efficient system for them. However, platforms work radically different. It's also why they're so disruptive. What they do is they take these very inefficient marketplaces and they make them efficient. Let me explain. So they work in real time, they work in transactions, they're open, they use data and artificial intelligence in order to intelligently match supply and demand. They're much more efficient, they're much more real time, particularly when you're looking at a marketplace that looks more like a modern day traveler in, say, Airbnb or Uber, for example. Our current system, like I said, we modeled it after that top line. As a matter of fact, it is a pipe. It's centered on an enterprise resource planning system and something called EDI, Electronic Data Exchange. Now, we're completely digitized, but what we've automated is a large sequential batch process. And that's not how the healthcare supply chain wants to work. Instead, it wants to work like the modern day traveler because we have a very fragmented marketplace. So we're not making huge purchases. We've got thousands of providers. And like I said, to service that from a manufacturing perspective is very expensive. So what we're imagining is not necessarily throwing the ERP system away, but instead putting an information management platform that has 4 components to it that works together and allows us to kind of recomponentize the ERP system and the processes that are really good in it, but allow them to work in a real-time manner, and more importantly, to allow them to work in a really smart manner so that we can free people up to do the things that they need to do within in the healthcare space. The 4 processes are process automation, process integration, analytics, and data management. Those 4 processes, and all of those have technological capabilities that are available today. They just need to be packaged together and put in the form of a platform that is really, really easy to use and that complements that ERP system. So an interesting thing is that we really started to focus on the 4 walls of our supply chain, making it more efficient. In fact, conservatively, we think by putting the information management platform in place just for Mayo, we're going to save $30 million over the next 5 years. The interesting thing is, as we start learning more, we start thinking about how that platform could be extended to the manufacturer and to the practice. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples. Make to order. I don't know how many of you are familiar with make to order, but what it does is it's a manufacturing process that it only starts once a order is received. Dell made this famous. What they did is they took all the inventory cost out of their supply chain because they don't have to guess or wage against demand. Instead, they're actually making it as they get the orders. We could apply this same methodology if we had a supply chain that supported it. We could apply the same methodology to some of our really high-end devices and technology. And it doesn't even have to be applied to everything, but this could have a significant impact on some of our supplies. Virtual care, this is pretty simple to understand, is that this is where we're providing care for people and they don't have to be in the physical office. Instead, that we're taking care of them virtually. And there's lots of ways of doing that. But if we are able to integrate our supply chain with that digital healthcare component, then we could either start an encounter by sending diagnostic supplies straight to the home, or conclude it by sending treatment devices directly to the home. So another integration point. This would be difficult for us to do today. Research and development. This is another area. I don't know how many of you have heard about precision medicine, but what precision medicine does is it allows us to customize healthcare for an individual. So if you think of this back to the first slide of make to order, the spin on this would be making products that are specific to an individual, perhaps even their DNA. Today, we manufacture things manufacture supplies and devices and even medicines based on populations. So they work sometimes and they don't work other times. It would be a lot more effective to always work. So in conclusion, I just wanted to leave you with a couple of last comments. Healthcare is too expensive. Within the healthcare industry, there's something called the supply chain, and it too is very expensive. And one of the reasons it's expensive is because it's trying to navigate a very inefficient marketplace. Digital has been proven to solve this problem mainly because it offers us a new business model, that of a platform. So I'd like to leave you, I believe that our future supply chain will be a digital one, and we're looking for help and help in innovating and making it really, really simple for the masses. Thank you.